and welcome to Morning Coffee with Pizan Academy. I'm Deanna, and today I want to talk to you about taking a wider view when you're studying history. And there are a lot of ways that you can do this. One thing that you can do is you can include primary sources, which we've talked about quite a bit, but you can include sources about other people than maybe who you're focusing on, or time periods that may be a little bit later in time and reflect back on that time period. So I'm going to use an example that I just worked on, and this is Julius Caesar. So we put together this big unit on Julius Caesar, and in doing this, we wanted to really understand who he was. Now, there's a lot of mythology, and we have quotes that we say in the modern world from Caesar, but what does that mean? Who was he, really? And so the way that we put this unit together is an approach that you can use when you're studying any part of history, whether it's a particular time period or an individual. So we started with his own writings of the Gallic Wars. And we looked at this writing and we read it, and it's quite long. And so what we did is that we excerpted it to pull out some things that we thought would tell a really complete story of his experiences when he was a general in Gaul. What we also did is we looked at a lot of biographical sources. We looked at Plutarch, who, even though he's writing later in time, has the lives of the eminent Greeks and Romans, and so he has a pretty comprehensive biography of Caesar. And what's really important about Plutarch is that he had available to him sources that have been lost to time. So he's a really good source to use. Another thing we looked at was a sort of almost ancient tabloid writer, Suetonius. Now, Suetonius drew some information from other sources. He interviewed people, and he wrote the lives of the 12 Caesars, the first of the 12 emperors. Even though officially Julius Caesar wasn't an emperor, he's often lumped in that group because he was the first to be appointed dictator for life, and that changes the face of Rome. So when we're putting everything together, we want to look at as many sources as we can get to find out who he really was. And so in doing this research, we wanted to include other people who had writings about them or who wrote themselves who lived in the same time period. Now, when Caesar was living, this was the end of the Republic, and there was a lot of chaos in politics. Rome was expanding its borders to create a larger territory, and so Caesar was sent to Gaul, and he wanted this appointment because one way to move up the ranks in Rome was to serve in the military. Another one was to practice law. So Caesar went the military route, but Cicero, a statesman in the same time period, went the lawyer route, and he was a great orator. And so even though he was a little older than Caesar, their lives really intertwined. And so putting in some of Cicero's writings really flushes out this time period. What we also did is fast forward about 1500 years, and we included Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Now, we know that Shakespeare would have had access to a translation of Plutarch that was done in 1579. When you read Shakespeare's Julius Caesar alongside Plutarch, what you find is that that is his main source. Now, Shakespeare does take some artistic license. He compresses the timeline a little bit, particularly after Caesar is assassinated, and he changes a little bit just for drama. He's writing a play, but this was a time when people were fascinated with the ancient world because Greece and Rome were being rediscovered. Another thing that comes out of this approach is your ability to see the objectivity of history. You can see how things get changed and kind of tweaked a little bit over time, but you're also be able to reveal truths. It's almost as if you're triangulating history to find those objective truths. An example is reading Suetonius's version of Caesar and then reading Plutarch's version of Caesar, and you're able to see where Suetonius took a little bit of his own opinions or popular opinions. What you want to do is corroborate your sources. And it's this objective truth, which is the goal in studying history. But it also can be rich if you add in the literary aspects or other aspects to show how these characters are timeless and how their stories are repeated over time to either tell moral lessons or cautionary tales. And it just makes history really come alive. If you're enjoying our videos, please share with your friends, like them, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell. We also have links in the description below to our other social media. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.